Okay, so we're going to discuss on how to create ceiling using Revit. So first we have to change our unit. So we have to type UN and then change the discipline to common and the length to millimeters. So once we're done, we're going to click OK. So we're going to create a wall. So here in architecture tab, you can see here the ceiling icon. So once we click the ceiling icon, we'll go here on the modify tab or panel. Here on the properties, you can see here the type selector. So once we click this small arrow, we can see here the basic ceiling and the compound ceiling. So these are the two types of ceiling for Revit. So the difference between the basic and the compound ceiling is that the basic ceiling, it has no thickness, just the material. For the compound ceiling, this has already structures. So once we click the 600 by 600 grid, so once we do the edit type or go to the edit type, you can see here the structure. So it is where you can change the thickness of your material, same as well with the materials that you're going to use. Unlike with the generic one, this is just a plane where you can only change the materials. So here in our modify panel, we can see here the automatic ceiling and the sketch ceiling. So the difference between these two is that the automatic ceiling, whenever there is a boundary on your plan or whenever you have a boundaries, so you can create the ceiling automatically. So you just have to select what kind of ceiling that you're going to use. For the sketch ceiling, this is used for if you have a designs on your ceilings. So for example, like this one, so somewhat irregular, or what if your ceiling has no boundaries to project on, so you're going to use the sketched ceiling. So to create a ceiling, you should go first with the ceiling plan. So you have to click the level 1. So again, you have to click the ceiling on the architecture tab, then automatic. So once we drag our cursor here on the space or room that we have, you can see here the red lines. It means that that is the boundary of your ceiling. So once we click that, so currently we're on the basic generic. So if we go to our 3D, so let's change this first, the walls to tab constraint of the level 2. So let's hide the wall. So to hide the wall or any element, you just have to type EH to hide. So if we look at this one, as mentioned earlier, that the basic or the generic ceiling has no thickness. It's just have a material. So once we click the edit type, you can see here only the materials and finishes. So if we go back here and create another room, so we can type wall or WA. And then go with the ceiling, change this to 600 or the compound. Sorry, so you should create your ceiling always on the ceiling plans here in the project browser. Okay. So as you can see here, you already have the grid. And once we go back to our 3D, and hide this wall, you can see here that there's a thickness. So once we click here and then go with the edit type, so it has already structures. So this is where you can add thickness to your ceilings. Yeah. So once we go to edit, you can change now the structure and the finish. So if you want to have a acoustic ceiling, you can change the finish as well, or you can just delete this one and then change the structure to acoustic ceiling board. So going back, there's another way for you to use for your as your ceiling. So you can use your slab or floors as your ceiling. So let's just delete first the ceiling. Okay, so once we create a floor, we'll go to level 2, then we'll create our floor. Okay, so if we go to our ceiling plan at level 1, so this is now our floor. So the difference between these two, if you use your floor as your ceiling, is that when you're going to put a families, for example, pin lights, you cannot put it because this is a ceiling. Unlike this, because this is not a ceiling, this is a floor. Unlike this one, where you can put families, chandeliers, pin lights, whatsoever. So you can put it in here. So let's try to put something on our ceiling. So we go to the systems, then lighting fixture. So we're going to load. So electrical, architectural. Okay, so lighting, sorry, an architectural folder, internal. So for example, this one. Okay, let's change this to shaded. Okay, so if you put our lights here, you can see that the ceiling allow the lighting fixture. Unlike this one, you can see the icon changes, so just like the stop icon. So it means that you can only put lighting fixtures on the ceiling, but you can actually there's a remedy for this one. So we'll go back to architecture, then ceiling level 1, then click the ceiling. What you can do is use the generic ones. So once we click this one, then we'll go back to our 3D and then insert a component. So you can now put your lighting fixture. Okay, so if we change the height, for example, 3 meters, there. Or we can change, we can put the ceiling here. So I think this one is 4 meters. Okay, so 3,600. So there, you can put ceiling here. Sorry, lighting fixture. So that's how you can create your ceilings. Okay, so to create a recessed ceiling, so first you have to create a wall. Next is let's go to the ceiling plans here at project browser, level 1, double click it, then click the ceiling icon, then click any of these compound ceiling. So for example, I'll go to the 600 by 600 grid, then edit type, let's duplicate it and rename it as recess ceiling 1. Then edit the structure. Let's remove this finish since we're going to use, for example, a gypsum board. Then the material, change this to gypsum. Then the thickness to 12 since we're going to use the half-inch thick gypsum board. And click OK. Okay. So why do we have to do that? it's since our ceiling has a grid of 600, so we're going to make it a plain ceiling. Next is we're going to use the automatic ceiling, then click this one, okay. Then escape. So if we go back to our 3D, let's change the wall height to level 2. And if we go to our 3D, once we hide this one, so to hide, type EH. Then if we look at our ceiling, it's already plain. So for example, it's shaded. Okay, so we have already our board. Next is to put a hole or an opening to our ceiling. So to do that, double click the ceiling to edit the boundaries. Then let's go back to level 1 ceiling plan. Then let's use the rectangle tool, then make an offset of, for example, 1 meter. Depends on you if you want to have a ceiling here that is 600 in depth. Depends. So for example, 1 meter. Then click this one. To flip the offset, just press space bar. There. Then click finish edit mode. Then if we go back to our 3D, you can see here that we have an opening or a hole on our ceiling. So to do the wall here, for the recess, for the cove, so let's go back, so let's go here in architecture, then click the component and click the modeling place. So here in the modeling place, you will see here a window where you can choose the categories and parameters for your model. So since we're going to have a ceiling, or our model will be on ceiling, so we will click these ceilings. So for this one, we'll have a separate discussion for the families and models. So first we just have to click these ceilings, then click OK, and let's rename it as recess ceiling wall 1. Click OK. Next, we'll go to the work plane and set our work plane. So why do you have to do that? It's because we want our drawing or our model to be on top of this ceiling. The default work plane is on the level 1 here on the floor. So once we make our model will be placed on our floor. So we're going to set our work plane here on the top of the ceiling. There. So if you want to see the reference or the work plane, just click here to show. So now our work plane is here on the top of our ceiling. So next, we're going to click this extrusion tool, then create a rectangle with an offset of 150, and we'll create our rectangle. There. Next is to have an offset for this one, so type OF, then press the tab to select all the lines and press it, so you already have an offset. Next is so our offset would be 12 mm since the thickness of our gypsum board is 12 mm. So once we're done, let's click this finish edit mode. So you can see here that our recessed wall for our ceiling is here on top of our ceiling. So once we're done, let's click this finish model. So you already have now your walls for your cove. Next is for the ceiling here. So to do that, let's go to architecture, then create ceiling, then sketch. So we just have to use the rectangle tool. Okay. So we can use here, or we can work on the level 1 ceiling plan. Then we can do the viewer. So once we click this one, zoom extend, so we can see here the walls that we created. So let's click this one. Let's click the pick lines. Then click this edge. So as you can see here, that is the boundary of our ceiling for the recess. And then let's click OK. So if we go back to our 3D or in our section, so let's go to level 1, then click view, section, then double click this one. As you can see here, this is our ceiling. So we just have to move this upward. So the height of our wall is 250. So since our ceiling here is 2.6, so that depression should be so we have to add this one. So let's say 2.8, so 62. So okay. So now this is our recessed ceiling or cove ceiling. So what if there's an revision? For example, you want to make this one higher. So for example, 3 meters. Okay. Then we can move this one naman based on this height. So since we have a 3 meters here plus the 250, so it's 3,250 plus the thickness, so it's 3,262. Okay. Next, we can align this one up here. So type AL, align this one. Okay. So if we go back to our 3D, this is now our recessed ceiling. There. So that's how you will do your recessed ceiling. Okay, so we're going to create a beam ceiling. So to do that, so we have to create wall first. Then make the tap constraint to level 2. So next is we have to go to the project browser and click the ceiling plans level 1. So double click it. Then we have to, here in the architecture tab, we have to click the ceiling icon, then choose the type of ceiling that you want. So I'll choose this one, then automatic ceiling, then edit type, replicate this one. So we have to remove the grids. So for example, ceiling 1, then edit the structure. We have to remove this finish and make the thickness to 12, then the default to gypsum board. So next, click OK. So change this to ceiling 1. So since this is already plain, we'll have to put now the beam. So to do that, you can go to the structure and then apply the beam system. So currently we don't have a model. So what we have to do is to first cancel this one. Then let's insert or load a family. So we have to go to the structural framing. Then we're going to use the wood dimension. Yes, so we're going to use the dimension or the timber one. Then For the sizes, let's go with the 286 by 597, for example. So let's click OK. Next is to click here the structure and beam system. Okay, so let's create a rectangle. There. So these two parallel lines here indicates the beam direction. If you want to change the beam direction, just click this one, then create a line. Yeah, so the beam direction of your beam is on vertical. Then let's finish. Then let's go back to let's go to 3D. So currently our beam is up here or down or below our level 1. So what we have to do is let's make this to or tap on strength forward to level 2. Okay, so let's click our beam system, then change the height. Okay, so let's change the height of our beam. Sorry, first the spacing. So for example, let's say 600. Okay, then change the elevation. Let's go to section. So go back to level 1, then view, then section. Okay, so this is our beam. So there. So the elevation is, for example, let's check first the height. It's 2.6, so let's make it, for example, 3 meters. Then let's move this to 3 meters. So this is our beam. So if this one's too big, we can just edit the or you can just load our beam system. So architecture, insert, then load families. So for the timber, let's open and make it like this size, something like this one. Click OK. Then here you can just do the edit type. For example, for the preview, let's say 100, then the height would be 200. Okay, so that would be the beam type ceiling or beam ceiling. If we look at our 3D, then let's hide this one. So to hide, type EH. Okay, so this is our beam ceiling. Okay, so we're going to discuss on how to create a covered ceiling. So first, we have to create our wall. Next is we have to go here on the ceiling plans, under the ceiling plans is the level 1. So double click this one to go to our ceiling plans. So next is we have to create our ceiling. So to do that, here on our type selector, you can choose whatever ceilings they want. But I would prefer to use the compound ceiling. So you can choose whatever ceilings you want here in the compound ceiling. So let's choose this one. Then click here. Then let's edit. Then duplicate ceiling cover. Then edit the structure. Let's remove this. Change the materials to gypsum or whatever materials you prefer. Next is change the thickness to 12 and click OK. Okay, so once you click here, let's change this to this one, ceiling cover. Let's edit. Okay, let's cancel. There. Okay, so we click this multiple times. That's why the ceilings are overlapping. So let's change this height to level 2. Let's go to our 3D. Let's try to delete this first. So there's another ceilings here. Okay, so let's undo. Next is we have to create our covered ceiling. So to do that is you have to go to the architecture tab and go to roof. Okay, so here in the type selector, we can see here the slope placing. So this is the type of roof that we're going to use. So let's click this one. Then let's go back to level 1 ceiling. And then let's create a rectangle. Okay, so let's press escape multiple times, then select it again. Then we need to remove this slope symbol. So we have to uncheck the define slope. Then click OK. Then if we go back to our 3D, this is our slope placing. So next, we have to create our profile for covered ceiling. Since this is a glazing, so there's a mullion here. So that mullion, we will replace it with the profile for the covered. So to do that, let's go to File, click New, then Family. Then let's look for the profile mullion. Then let's open this one. Then we'll be going here on the reference level or the editing tools for the or creating tools for the family. So we're just going to use the line, but before that we have to change the unit. So type UN and make this 2 millimeters. Okay, let's click OK. So we're going to create now our profile. So for example, 150, and then let's say 50, and 12, letter 12, say 50, and then 12, under 12, then we can make an arc, here, then a line, say 12, another 12, okay, so let's say 12, Okay. So for example, this is the design of our profile. Let's see. Okay. Then we have to trim this one. Okay, next we have to save this. So to save, click this icon, then move it to our desktop. So for example, covered, ceiling, half. Then let's save. Next, we have to mirror this one. So to mirror, you can type or you can just click this icon. There. And then delete this. Then save as. Make this as full. Then save. Okay. So next, we'll have to close this one. We'll go back to our mullion. So first, we have to insert the families that we created. So let's go to our desktop. And load this too. Okay, here on our project browser, we have here the families. So let's expand this and then look for the curtain wall mullions. Then this one. So we can just duplicate our rectangular mullion. So duplicate. Then change the name to covered, ceiling, half, and duplicate it again. Let's change this to full. Okay, then let's edit the full. Then look for the profile that we created and click OK. Next is for the half. Okay, so let's click the mullions that we've created here. Okay, so let's edit, then duplicate. Let's say covered 1. So for the curtain panel, let's make this as, okay, so we don't have empty here. So let's cancel first. Let's insert a empty panel. Okay, so here on the metric libraries. So curtain wall panels. So let's load the empty. Okay, so let's click this one, then edit type, duplicate, covered 1. Then the curtain panel should be empty. Then for the grid, let's make this as maximum spacing of, for example, 600. Then for the grid 1 mullions, make the interior type as full. Then for the border, let's make it as half. Okay, then let's click OK. So the mullions are on the other side. So let's edit the mullions here. So position should be parallel to the ground. Okay, so then change the angle to negative 90. Okay, so let's make this one as shaded. That's fine. So for the border, so half, let's make this as facing to the ground, and then change this to negative 90 as well. Okay, so let's edit this one. So for the border one, let's make it as half. Okay, so if we go to our section, okay, so let's make another section here. So this is the face of, or the cover ceiling that we have. So for this one, maybe we could change this to 90. Okay, so let's say negative 45. Okay, let's make it just negative 90. So this one should be flipping. If we make this as perpendicular to the face, let's make this 90. Oh, okay. 0. So parallel to the ground. So to 3D. Okay. Okay, if it happens like this one, what we can do is to edit our mullion. So let's go back to our and let's open our mullion. Maybe we just have to flip this one. So to flip this, we can just use the mirror or type mm again. Then let's delete this one. Control S for save, and let's close. Let's go to section 2, then edit this one. Okay, so maybe we could just, for now, we can just make it like that. Next is for the horizontal. So let's go back to our 3D. No, sorry. Let's make this one move downward. So for example, the height of this one is 3 meters. So let's make this as 3 meters as well. Okay, so negative 1,000. Okay, so here's our cover. So next is to create another slope glazing. So let's go back to our level 1. Then create a architecture, then roof, then rectangle, press escape multiple times, then select and uncheck the define slope, then press OK. So if we go to our 3D, this is our let's change this to slope glazing. So then edit type, duplicate, cover, ceiling 2. Okay, so for the curtain panel, let's make this as empty. Then for the grid 2, maximum spacing, same as well as 600. Then for the grid mullions 2, let's change this to, for the interior type, full. And for the border 1, let's make it as half. Okay. So if we go back to our section, okay, so this is our covered. So let's move this to base offset to negative 1,000. Okay, so if we go back to our 3D, then let's hide this one. So to hide, type EH. So this is now our covered ceiling. So we can actually edit the spacing for this. So just edit type, then spacing to, let's say 800. Then OK. Same as with this one. So edit type, let's say 800. Okay. So this is how to create a covered ceiling.